Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy holidays. I hope you guys all had a Merry Christmas. And, again, I know that there's many of us that are hurting. Excuse me. We haven't seen our kids in a long time, and some of us are suffering with that. And by I mean suffering, I mean, it's a terrible, nightmarish plight that many of our brothers and sisters out there are going through. And I want to tell you that you are not alone. My name is Stephen Ball. This is Custody Warriors. I've done a podcast in the past, Restoring Families, and I've been a guest on a host of other shows. But I really like the opportunity that these social media platforms give me when they give me the opportunity to come out and talk to you guys about these issues. Man. So I was on a thread a little bit ago, and somebody asked the question. He says, what are the corporations that are behind some of the issues that we see with child support and with social services, Title IV, the list goes on. And there's only one that really, really comes to mind in a real big way. And the more and more I learn about this company, the more and more I actually dislike them. Of course, we can see through the prison system that when you when you privatize these government services, these government systems, we can see through evidence of the prison system that this is not always beneficial, and oftentimes private entities, they're for money, they work for money, so they're there to serve their own purposes to the end result. What we see with Maximus Company, I'm going to read their little company profile. That's going to be a lengthy read. Forgive me. I read like an eighth grader sometimes. I want you guys to just do your best to bear with me, though. I'll do the best I can to get through it. I'm also here in a minute. I'm also going to play a couple of YouTube commercials that they have there, a little bit lengthy. And I'll pause between each one, and I'll tell you my thoughts, and then we'll proceed to the next one. I'll tell you my thoughts, so on and so forth. So this company is no joke, and a lot of us, we're trying to get to the grassroots, where our money is going, how it's being spent, who's collecting it. We hear these outrageous numbers. We oftentimes we can go to these support enforcement windows, or we try to get health benefits, and we don't quite understand, or most of us don't quite understand, who is really pushing the buttons. Really. So we got to look at states like Colorado, Indiana, Washington, California. We have to look at these states, and we have to peel back a layer, not just the person sitting there behind the counter. But I'll tell you this, the person sitting there behind the counter might not actually be a real state employee. What? Right. Kind of like outsourced or privatized security. Not that I would know anything about that, 17 years in the business. No, I wouldn't know anything about outsourcing government positions to lower paid bid rate employees. Oftentimes, little or no benefits, no vacation, no medical, no dental. But hey, you know what? Maximus Company might be better than that. Who knows? All I can tell you is what I've seen in the industry over the course of my life, and many others. Can tell you that privatized government work is not truly beneficial to the people. Although it's saving the government lots of money, they can hire employees and carry out certain agendas in a cost-effective way, but it's not always effective to the citizenry, and we're going to get into that. Again, we know that there are amazing and huge shortfalls that happen in social services, that happen with child support, that happen. So like I said, we have to peel back a layer. We have to start understanding what's going on. And when we talk about Maximus Company, this is one of those layers a lot of you guys don't even know exists. Again, you don't even know this company exists, but they're the ones that have been pushing the buttons behind the scenes for most of your guys' lives, the last 30, maybe 40 years in many states and several other countries. We're going to get right into this. First of all, I'm going to start the best I can here over my phone. I'm going to start just by playing a little 4-minute clip produced by Maximus Company, and I think conglomeratively will decide. But this is the first clip here.
As health insurance coverage has expanded to millions of Americans, Maximus is the national leader in helping governments administer their public programs. We help the state of Colorado adopt a more efficient way to help CHIP and Medicaid beneficiaries enroll in the right health plan.
Maximus is the point of entry for the people of Colorado to apply for medical assistance under the state programs.
By providing multiple entry points to consumers, Colorado is already improving access to coverage, a major goal under healthcare reform.
Multi-channel access, or what the state calls the no wrong door policy. A person can apply for medical assistance. They can apply via email, they can drop it off, and actually we are launching Colorado's online application submission.
Maximus processes millions of documents every year, and we've helped states transition to paperless environments.
In the mailroom, the paper is scanned, turned into an electronic format, and released into our application tracking system. At that point, all of the data is indexed, and a task is created.
This electronic approach allows us to track project workflow. Our technology seamlessly integrates with external data sources, a key element of simplified eligibility.
Here in Colorado, they actually have gone through years of trying to reduce the number of documents that individuals and families need to submit to be determined eligible for these programs.
Once eligibility is determined, beneficiaries contact our local customer service representatives, who offer a simplified enrollment process.
Thank you for calling the Colorado Medical Assistance Program. My name is Ronnie. May I please have your first and last name?
Okay.
Gracias por llamar a la línea de asistencia médica de Colorado. Mi nombre es Rosa. ¿Me permite su primer nombre y apellido, por favor?
We maximize efficiencies for established state processes using business process management tools, known as BPM, to re-engineer program workflow.
And because of our BPM process, we can track an application through every step of the process. We can also internally manage our staff more effectively because we know where the peaks and valleys are in the process itself. In a pay-for-performance environment, you want staff to have full visibility into what their production goal is, but also what their incentive level is.
Colorado's innovative approach leverages existing infrastructure that's ready for Medicaid expansion and establishes a blueprint for health insurance exchanges.
We believe we have a business solution that can handle the movement, or sometimes called churn, between the clients that will move often between state subsidized programs such as CHIP to subsidized payment programs to state sponsored coverage. We understand the clients. We also understand the underlying business behind the core of what's in healthcare reform. Healthcare reform is a collection of business processes that have to take applications, answer questions of families, enroll families in programs, help them understand their options that are available.
By combining the best people, processes, and technology, we help our clients run effective public health insurance programs that are the foundation of healthcare reform. Maximus delivers better solutions for better lives.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. Maximus delivers better solutions for better lives. And yet, the system has failed you miserably. But this company trades on Wall Street. It's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. We're going to get into a little bit of their background here in a moment. One of the things I wanted to do is play another video again, released by Maximus in support of its company. So here's Yeah, okay. So these videos here, okay, so I was going to play one. I'm going to wait a minute. These videos here are showing you the outsourcing of programs like CHIP. And some of you might say, well, what's CHIP and how does that relate to me? Well, CHIP in Colorado, it's a Medicaid service, Children's Health and Insurance Program, to provide no cost or low cost health insurance for eligible children in Colorado. These programs provide health coverage for children so that they can get routine checkups, immunizations, dental health care, and the claim is to keep them healthy. When you couple that, and here's one of the problems, I think a lot of people they're wrapping their minds around it right now. When you couple that with some of the requirements, almost socialistic, almost communistic requirements that are placed on these programs and that are placed on the citizenry, you'll realize that you're being curtailed the same way the Jews were. And I hate to use that analogy. God, it sounds so terrible to say that. But the same way the Jews were, almost like you're being put on the train. You don't really have a way of getting off the train. This is the system that is guiding you. Well, how does this work with child support? You know, Maximus Company works in the United States, in Australia, in Canada. In 2016, Maximus won a huge contract to take over their social services, not all, but about half of their social services in the United Kingdom. There was a company, I think it was called Atlas, that lost, and I don't remember all the issues behind it, but they lost their ability to hold the contract. And so then Maximus Company in the United States kicks in. But this company operates in Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Greece, the list goes on. And their main focus is to undercut or underscore the government and handle all this private agency, or excuse me, all this public stuff through a private agency. Well, that's scary. We can look at companies like Facebook, and we can see what Facebook does with our data. They outsource it, they sell it, they copy it, they clone it. You don't know what private company has your information, your children's information, your parents' information, maybe your elderly parent or your sick parent, or maybe your child. If your child is sick or invalid in some cases. So we don't really, and there's not a lot of transparency because they are a private company. So you can file all the FAWAs you want, or Freedom of Information Act. You can file all the FAWAs you want. You're not going to get much out of the company. They are publicly traded though. So that could be said if we could get a shareholder big enough. But the thing is if you did get a shareholder big enough, they would own the stock and they'd be making the money. Not you and me. Okay. So we know that there's a private interest, and that private interest at the end of the day can only be for money. It is not. It's kind of a dichotomy. You cannot have a private interest that says that I am of an interest for the public solely, because a private interest is there to make money. And we can see this. It's interesting how they've attached themselves to juvenile justice programs, juvenile health coverage programs, education programs. These guys are even involved in the food industry. People don't know that. Like I said, I told a couple people earlier this morning, I said, look, I will do a video and I will kind of outline Maximus. I'll do a live audio anyway, and I will outline Maximus for you guys so you guys can have some understanding of what Maximus does, and how it affects you. This might be a little bit lengthy, but I am going to kind of get into the background, at least what they provide as the background. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, do your own research. Research the crap out of Maximus Incorporated. Understand what it is. Understand how it's affecting the citizenry. Now, look, I get it. One could really reasonably argue, well, I mean, we're saving a lot of money by not having to pay all these state employees. But see, state employees can be held to a standard under the state ethics guideline. We don't get that when we privatize public interest. We get contractual guidelines. But it doesn't quite have the same bite as an oath of office, an oath of public trust. The list goes on. A private company can walk in there and say, oh yeah, my employee screwed up. We fired him, moving forward. Really, really hard at that point to hold them to an oath of public trust in some way. Okay. Maximus Company. It's one of the leading private sector companies that provides program management, information technology, and consulting services to state and local government agencies. Located in Reston, Virginia, Maximus has projects in nearly every state, as well as a number of foreign countries. The company's operations are divided into three groups. Government Operations Group has grown out of the work that Maximus has chiefly focused on since its founding in 1975. Running welfare-to-work projects, managed care enrollment, and other government health and human service programs. I want to talk about that. You know, Maximus instituted a 1% insurance hike. I think it was in Colorado. Well, it was like a test bunny project. And I think they were working with some legislators. And they said, hey, look, let's jack up healthcare insurance for anybody who has smoked and has never gone through smoking cessation. Anyways, it sounded good on paper, but once you peel back a layer, it's pretty damn discriminatory. And they knew it was, and they said it was. They said, you know, look, this might discriminate so many low income or so many, you know, but they were willing to basically let people die to save the almighty bottom dollar. And that to me, I mean, I got to shake my head at that. All right. Moving right along. The company's, okay. Let's see here. Okay, the company's government consulting group provides support to government agencies in such areas as information technology, program evaluation, financial management. The government systems group offers proprietary software and advanced computer system solutions to public agencies. Since welfare reform legislation passed in 1996, Maximus has dramatically increased its revenues. Let's talk about some other things that happened in 1996. Oh, the Safe Families and Adoptions Act, Title 4D, that happened in 1996. FAWA happened in 1996. Excuse me, VAWA, Domestic Violence Against Women's Act. And a lot of people don't even understand what the Domestic Violence Against Women Act is, how it moves a lot of money, and it really doesn't aid victims of domestic violence. But we'll get into that on another topic, at another time. Okay. It claims that it doesn't generate controversy. The company Maximus received unwanted publicity in Los Angeles, Milwaukee, and especially in New York City, providing ready ammunition for critics who did not only question how Maximus does business, but attack the very principles that the company espouses. Well, yeah, no shit. But that's just me. Turning to the private sector, government in the 1960s. The concept of private companies supporting a government agency was pioneered by Ross Perot, one of the reasons why he didn't become elected, and his Electronic Data Systems Corporation, or EDS, which was originally created to take over the data processing operations of private businesses. When Congress passed Medicare legislation in 1965, resulting in an enormous amount of paperwork that needed to be processed, the concept was applied to the federal government. Medicare and Medicaid processing proved to be so lucrative for EDS that within 3 years it accounted for, listen to this, nearly 25% of the company's revenues. By 1977, the amount grew to nearly 40%. As a result, Perot had become immensely wealthy and famous enough to run twice for the presidency of the United States of America. You don't think that Ross Perot didn't know where his revenue was coming from? Like I've told you guys, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know Maximus Company, you don't know shit about family law reform. The founder of Maximus, David Mastrin, earned an undergraduate from West Point in 1965, followed by a year later, a master's degree in industrial engineering from Stanford. He spent 7 years in the Air Force, so there's no way this guy's not an officer, including a 1-year tour in Vietnam. He returned to school and earned a doctorate in operations research from George Washington University in '73. He briefly worked at the Pentagon as an Air Force researcher and then transferred his skills to the old Federal Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. A lot of liberal education going on there. Which may or may not have been a bad thing all to and of itself, but look at where this guy went. The easiest avenue for the money. And we see it. He managed contracts and grants and essentially tried to impose discipline on social welfare programs. According to a business work profile, Mastrin was unable to find a private company that understood welfare programs well enough to help the government instill efficiency. And so he decided to quit his position and start a business to fill that need. He told the Washington Post, "I decided I couldn't fix this from the inside." In 1975, he started... No, good morning. Let's see here. Lost track where I was. In 1975, following a short stint working for a consulting firm, Arthur Young, Mastrin founded Maximus with $12,000 and began working alone out of his home. He chose that Maximus name as a reflection of the company's mission to maximize government efficiency. So the system wasn't well enough for this guy in his mind. But it's interesting, we got to go back and look at some things. We really should. The first work for Maximus was a $3,000 contract to assist in the processing of military health care claims, followed by a $15,000 job in New Hampshire to create enforcement to increase payments by deadbeat parents. Well, in 1975, deadbeat dads. So now he's got access to military records, he's got access to welfare records, and now they're taking over child support. Ever wonder why the system seems so like robbing Peter to pay Paul? Bingo. The system isn't broken, ladies and gentlemen. The system is working as it was designed to work. To hurt you. We'll get into that in a little bit. Okay. Maximus developed a system that would target people with high incomes. The agency, however, maintained that the law did not allow for such selectivity and opted not to renew the contract. Maximus maintained a low profile as it began to collect bigger fees and add employees to handle its mounting workload. In 1984, the company received an important contract from New York City when it hired help to reduce welfare fraud. Well, we know what was really going on there, and I'm not going to get into that whole ball of wax. In 1988, Maximus signed a major 5-year, $49 million contract with Los Angeles County to run its portion of state welfare to work program called GAIN, Greater Avenues for Independence. The first attempt to privatize a welfare system. Rather than just serving in a support capacity, Maximus was essentially replacing the government. The company determined whether someone was eligible for welfare, prompting a lawsuit by the Service Employees International Union that contended that only civil service employees had the legal right to make such decisions. Social critics also questioned the inherent conflict for a non-profit company engaged in public work. Would Maximus focus its efforts on the clients that would be more easily placed in jobs, thus padding its success rate at the expense of the people who needed their help the most? Supporters of Maximus could at the very least point to the improved conditions of the welfare environment. Welfare clients claimed our welfare clients called participants by Maximus found softly lit, carpeted, and nicely decorated waiting rooms where they were offered cookies and coffee. Ladies and gentlemen, this just goes on and on. Okay, so now in 1990, so I guess I'll go back to the 80s here. I'll finish this up. This is the beginning of your work source programs, by the way. This is where you see like Manpower, Work Source, Work First programs, things like that. And then what you will start seeing is, despite the fact that you may be qualified, so you're holding out for a job you're qualified for, what they've created and been working very hard to do, and they've done it, is that now, if you're offered work at all, and you turn it down because you're waiting for a job that you're more qualified for, and it's a higher pay, you can lose your welfare benefits and Social Security, or not Social Security, but unemployment benefits and other things, because you're underemploying yourself. Rather than wasting the time for another employer to hire you with qualifications that you may not exactly fit. But again, we got to get that child support money. And again, we got to get that welfare check to the other people. We got to get the money out of you. Most of this was an attack against men, although women now are feeling the sting more and more and more of being forced to take these crappy jobs, being forced to forego education in some cases. It's a real travesty. By 1990, Maximus was generating $19 million in annual incomes, with state and local governments cutting budgets and increasingly turning to the private sector for help. The company, working in just 4 states, appeared poised to experience substantial growth. It touted how much money it saved the government and boosted its superior computer systems and flexible staff that operated without the hindrance of bureaucratic red tape, i.e., no oversight. So they were able to get away with a lot. They received they received 100 of a $150 bonus, I think that's million, to Maximus for every client that remained in a job for 6 months or worked through enough to reduce aid to families with dependent children, or the AFDC program. 1994. Maximus experienced a number of problems. However, in 93, data entry errors in Arizona resulted in the state refunding $250,000 in child support payments. In 1994, Mississippi froze a contract with Maximus when costs actually doubled after the company took over the child support collection. Also in 1994, Maximus had problems in West Virginia after it hired a consultant who was a supervisor on a project on which it was bidding. The company claimed that it had been misled by the employee. Although Maximus was never charged with wrongdoing, it decided to withdraw its bid. These problems notwithstanding, Maximus continued to grow. It exceeded $50 million in revenues in 95, then almost doubled that amount 1 year, generating $103 million in 1996. So once they get into child support, so they've got military squared away, they've got welfare squared away, they've got Medicaid squared away, they've got child support squared away. Oh, what's left? Parks and Rec? What are they going to do now? Parks and Rec? Ladies and gentlemen, this is your shadow government. Watershed movement for Maximus and other private sector program management companies came in 1996 when President Clinton signed into law the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Act. This welfare reform legislation essentially rewrote the rules. AFDC money was now allocated to states in block grants, and requirements that state or local government agencies would be involved in running the program were eliminated. Privatization of welfare-to-work programs funded by federal money was now given a free rein. Wisconsin wasted little time in awaiting its business to private contractors. For a number of years, its governor, Tommy Thompson, had been granted federal waivers to institute experimental welfare reform programs. Since 1987, when he took office, Thompson claimed that Wisconsin had reduced the number of people on welfare more than the other 49 states combined. In April 96, he signed a law that would require all able-bodied parents to work in exchange for AFDC money. I kind of agree with that, but I don't think they needed Maximus to get there. Sorry, I lost my place. Okay. The program called Wisconsin Works, or W2, was put on hold pending federal welfare reform legislation. But as soon as President Clinton signed the bill, the state was quick to act. In September 1996, W2 went into full effect, limiting aid to welfare recipients of 2 consecutive years for a lifetime or total 5 years, with the goal of completely eliminating welfare within several years. A year later, Maximus and 4 nonprofit companies would divide Milwaukee's 24,000 welfare clients. In 1997, Maestrin decided to take Maximus public, prompted, he said, by an offer of more than $100 million from a major blue chip company. $84 million offering with an initial price of $16 per share, netted Maestrin almost $25 million, and other executives of the company an additional $20 million. Maximus used the remaining money to fund expansion, making a number of acquisitions in '98. The company purchased San Antonio-based Spectrum Consulting Group for approximately $19.3 million. Spectrum provided information technology services. Maximus then acquired David M. Griffith and Associates, DMG, of Northbrook for approximately $31.5. DMG also did consulting work for government agencies, focusing on executive recruiting and human resources planning. The net Maximus acquisition was $32 million stock swap for Carrera Consulting of Sacramento, California, a software provider for government agencies. So now he's into software. Ladies and gentlemen, that's mine and yours private information obtained through the government that he has now had the ability and had the ability for over the last 30 years to pilfer. Now let's keep in mind, the United States of America is not the only country that this organization is operating in. This is pretty much all U.S. based, but we have international investors where this company operates in Australia, in Canada, New Zealand, in Saudi Arabia, the UK. The list goes on. You know, it's interesting when you peel back a layer. We start understanding that there are many front companies, subsidiary companies, that are ultimately owned by this major company, but you don't necessarily see Maximus on the front page or the front door. That to me is shady. Why is that? There is, however, a Maximus. You can actually go to the building. Anybody in the area over there, you know, it's 11419 Sunset Hills Road, Reston, Virginia. Let's say 2190 or 2190, yeah, USA. So there is an actual physical place to go to. So yeah, Maximus Company has done a bang up job here of taking over government jobs and including them into the private sector. They have made a shitload of money doing this. You can imagine that some portion of your child support checks are going there. You can imagine that some of your data is being outsourced or controlled. Medical reasons or being sold to insurance companies. I mean, the list goes on. Who really has control of their own information? That's a question. Especially if you've ever had to ask for social welfare of some kind, or even promoting your children because you had a period of time in your life where you didn't have a lot of money. I guarantee it, somewhere in there, Maximus Company has your name on a file. And if it's not in a file, it's in a computer database. Again, they excelled in technology. They came in and they offered programs to these governments that were, we all know, behind the times, and they couldn't see past their own foot. So they had to use these companies to springboard an agenda. And it is my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, that today we are living their agenda. Again, that's just kind of a brief overview of Maximus Company. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I said this was going to be a little bit lengthy. I didn't mean for it to go this long. I'm going to go ahead and split out of here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to PM me. There's many other people in the movement, the family law reform movement, not just with custody warriors or restoring families or future of our children or beyond normal or whatever that is. Far from normal, that's it, okay. That have some knowledge of this. You can reach out and ask questions. But I encourage each and every one of you to do your own research. Figure this thing out for yourself. In some ways, this company looks so good and so golden, and they're helping the government. They're giving these services to people that need it. But I question the motives. And I think you should too. I question right now a system that puts men and women behind bars and a no right to work state because they fell a little bit behind on child support. I think we should take a look at some of these child support cases anyway. I think we should have more debt forgiveness. If the U.S. government can come in and bail out Ford, Chevy, Chrysler, and everybody else, why can't the American citizen get a little help every once in a while too? But anyways, guys, I will talk to you guys shortly. God bless you. Happy New Year's. Be safe out there. If you drink, don't drive. Do the watermelon crawl. This is Steve Ball with Custody Warriors. These are my thoughts. This is my take on Maximus Company. Hope my account doesn't get shut down because I did this. It's happened before, and I'm guaranteeing it'll probably happen again because apparently me and Zuckerberg are such close friends. All right, we'll talk to y'all soon. Have a good one. Bye bye.